All right, so today we'll be learning about building REST API with Node.js and especially with the Express framework. Okay, so I'm Shrikant. I'm a freelance trainer as well as a web consultant and architect. Um, so I am a trainer at skewcode.com. Um, and this is my website, shrikantemi.com. You can visit it to get to know more about me. So this webinar is brought to you by SkewCode. SkewCode is a training institute located in BTM layout, Bangalore. And um, yeah, so let me get started. So before we start to understand how to write a API using Express, I think we need to understand what REST architecture is and what an API is. So let me give a demo of this API. I have, the is a sample API created, and I'm going to show it to you first, and then I will show you how to code for the same thing. Okay, so let me see here. I have all right. So let me start the server. All right, so now it is started. So how to see this, right? I'm running my API server on localhost 8080. And so if you visit that, this is what you're going to see. Okay. So the API that I have created is at this route or URL. So let's visit that. So you can see that there are two users. One John Doe and another Mary Jane, and we have a email and a phone number. So APIs typically are JSON, right? So and this is the JSON here, and this is the GET request that is getting us this particular API. So um, to check the API or to test the API on other HTTP methods like post, put, or delete, we need to use a tool such as Postman. We can't do it through browser, right? So through browser, we can only check the GET request. So let me open Postman. Take some time to load. So give it a minute. All right. So I will change to get and click on send. So you'll see this is the API or the JSON that we got back when we did this from the browser. Right. So now let me change this to post, and then let me go to body. Let me change the type to raw, and I'll choose this JSON application, right? So now if I post a user details JSON, okay, so you can say Shrikant and E. any. Let us say this is so if I click on post, now this particular JSON is going to be posted to the users API, and then below we get this message which says successfully added. Let me minimize this. Okay. So once we get this message, if we again go to get and see whether the data we have submitted is there, you can see that it is there. Okay. So typically a REST resource, right, such as users, will have these 4 routes available. So get and these are for the Crud operations. So Crud, I'm sure most of you are familiar: create, read, update, and delete. So get is for create. Get is for read, where you can read all or get the list of all the users. Post is to create, where you can create a new user by posting the user JSON to this URL. And then put is for update, where again you post the JSON of the user with the new changes that you want to update, as well as at the end of the URL in the route path, you provide this route parameter, which is basically the ID of the user being updated. And then the last one is delete route or delete endpoint, delete URL, whatever you want to call it. So again, the URL looks similar to the put URL, where you have after users, you have the ID of the user that you want to delete. So in this case, you don't have to post any JSON, of course. You just need to tell which ID user with which ID has to be deleted, and then that will be deleted. Okay, so let us see this. So again, let me refresh. So I got this 103, and this is my email, etc., etc. So let me do this. Let me go to Postman, and let me try to update my ID. So ID, you can see, has been auto-generated, right? I have logic in the code to auto-generate the ID. So it has been auto-generated. So I will give that ID, and in the this thing, the HTTP method, I'm going to change it to put. I'll go to the body, which is the request body. So anything that you submit to the web server is a request to the web server, and what you get back from the web server is a response from the web server. Right. So this is what I submitted earlier. So let me change the phone number. Okay. So I'll make it something like this. Now I'll click on send. Then I get this message: user modified successfully. So if I now go here and refresh, then I will see the new phone number here. Okay, the same thing obviously you can get from Postman as well, by just changing this HTTP verb or the HTTP request method to get. Then if you click on send, you have to, so this is also one validation that I have done. You have to get users URL. If you give the wrong URL, you're going to get this incorrect route or HTTP verb kind of message. Okay, so now you see that we got back all the data, and also the phone number has changed. Okay. Then finally, the last one is delete. So if you go to delete and you give the ID that you want to delete, right in the URL as a route parameter, then just click on submit this request, and it says user deleted successfully. And if you go to get, and if you change this URL back to users, then you can see that the result is gone. Okay, the record is gone. All right, so I think this simple demo should help you to understand at least how an API usually looks, And whatever API we saw just now, let's try to develop the same thing. Okay, over the course of this webinar. Um, so I won't be storing this data into a database. I will store it temporarily in an array. Uh, I mean, storing it in a database like Mongo or Postgres, etc. That needs more time for me to show those concepts. So I'll focus on only how to develop these APIs and how to store this. I'll show you how, where the code should go, but I'll not be exactly showing you how to do that. Okay. All right. So now let's get going. So I think we are now clear about this, the various URLs. So this is a typical format of the URLs. So get and post, just the name of the resource, and usually the resource name is a plural, right? It's users, books, employees, departments, and so on. And then put and delete have the URL, and on top after that we have the primary key of the resource or the resource identifier, using which the editing can happen and using which the deleting can happen. In case of get and delete, you don't have to post any JSON, whereas in case of post and put, you have to post the JSON using which the user should be created or the user should be updated. Okay, so before we start, we have to install Node. So just go to Node.js um, website, look for LTS or the long-term support version, which is the stable version. Download it and install it. Installation is pretty simple. You just have to click the next button on the wizard and it completes it. You can keep all the options almost default. No need to change anything. Make sure you download the version appropriate for your platform or operating system. And then we need this tool called Postman. Okay, so get request method we can check through browser because that is what it is by default. Whenever you access a URL, you are actually using the get verb. But something like um, post, delete, and put, um, to try those out or test those out, we need a REST client like Postman. Okay. So I can see that there are some questions coming from the audience in the chat window, but I think I'll hold these questions till the end and then answer them. Okay. All right. So how do we install Postman? Just go to Google and search for Postman, and that's gonna take you to the results page, of course, and then the first link that you get is for the Postman Chrome web store. So clicking that will take you to the Chrome web store page, which will have a button to install. Here I have already installed, so it says launch app. Okay, so click on this and install it. So once you have installed, the way to access this is every time is go to Chrome apps, this URL, and you will see all the apps installed. So this is the Postman. Click on it, and that's going to launch your Postman. Like I launched just a few minutes ago. Okay. All right. So then, I'm going to use Express framework, right? So frameworks are basically libraries which make something easy. Okay, so for example, if you take uh, the use case of writing a API or a web application in Node, then there are some inbuilt libraries like the HTTP module of Node, which you can use and create um, and create your API or web application. But you have to write a lot more code, and that's never good, right? None of us like it. So that is why we use framework. Express is a web framework. So whatever common development tasks uh, need to be done, the Express has a very easy way of doing it, so that it reduces the amount of code and makes your code very easily readable as well. Okay. So current version of Express is 4.x. It's the most popular Node.js web framework, uh, and it is the you know it is the library that is part of the mean or MERN stack. That again, most of you may have heard about it. So mean stands for MongoDB, and then E for Express is what I'm talking about now, A for Angular, and N for Node.js. Similarly, here MERN, M stands for Mongo, E for Express, R for React.js, and N for Node. So whether it is mean or MERN stack, this Node.js and Express is common to it, and it's pretty popular. So let's go to the website and take a quick look. So this is the website. So you can see what is written here. It says fast, unopinionated, minimalist web framework for Node.js. So fast, basically performant, and then unopinionated, minimalist means so it was not built for any specific domain. Okay, so it's kind of built for a wide domains. You can use it for any use case or any domain, and hence it has a lot of flexibility and a lot of power. Okay. So you could, if you're more interested, Google about opinionated versus unopinionated frameworks. Express is a unopinionated framework. Okay. All right. So next. Okay. So let's before we look at this topic, let's write a small Node app using Express. So for that, what we'll do, now I have a folder called test created. We'll write our code here. I have this old file, so let me go and delete all these code files. Okay. So if you actually look at this folder in an editor, then you will see that I have a package.json file here. Right? And this one I got it created using npm init, right? Initialize, of course. So I have already installed two libraries, okay, called Express and Body Parser. I'll come to this. So before this, let me write a simple web app. So let me go here and create a server.js. Okay, and here I will. Okay, so first of all, you need to install Express, right? So to install Express, you have to issue this command: npm install express -save, and you have to do it from the folder where you're trying to install. So you have to go to the command prompt into the test folder and then run this command. Okay, so I'm not going to run it because it's going to take some time to run, and I have already run it to save time. So what needs to happen now? I'm going to click kill the other window. Okay. So here first we need to import Express in Node.js. Of course, we require it. Constant Express equals require Express. So once you do this, you have to create an app, Express app, using this syntax. and then you have to start your app. Okay, the web app basically saying app.listen, and it takes the port number. I'm going to use 8080 port, and then it takes a callback method. I'm going to use this arrow function syntax, and this callback is called after this web server is started successfully. So I'm going to just log a message and say server started at port 88. Okay. So now let me go here and execute this file node server.js. It says immediately server started at port 8080. Okay. But basically as of now, we have 0 routes handled, 0 endpoints. So let's handle the the root endpoint using this app.get API. And so in Express app, we get a lot of this app.get, app.post, and app.put, app.delete. So each of these HTTP request methods have a corresponding API. Okay, so we'll use the get one for now, and we have to tell Express which route we are going to handle. Okay, and then we have to pass a callback like this. Again, I'm going to use the arrow function syntax. So basically, this callback is called whenever somebody tries to access this root URL using the get request method or HTTP verb, then this callback is called. Okay? So this callback gets two parameters by default. One is a handle to the request of the user, and the other one is a handle to the response from the web server. So to the response, we are going to send something. So let me send a simple HTML h1 say hello world. Once we are done, then if you try to access this path, right, then okay, so this is the first problem that we encountered. It didn't work, right? Obviously. So the reason is I started this node server before I made the code changes. So now what I have to do, I have to kill this using Control C, and I have to run the same command once again. Now it is again started. Now if I go and try to access it, I get this method. I get this output. Okay, hello world. So doing this again and again. So usually, as developers, we code a little, we test a little. So doing this again and again is very cumbersome and very painful. That is why we use a utility called NodeMon. Okay. So NodeMon allows you to start the server code once, and then it keeps watching the code. Whenever the file content changes, it will automatically compile and reload the server. That saves us the trouble of killing the node app and then again restarting it. Okay, so we have to install this. So typically, we install this globally so that it is available to all available to all applications in any folder, right? So do this, run this command from command prompt from any folder, and then you will have NodeMon installed. I have already done this, so I will not show this again. So what I will do now, instead of node, I'm going to kill this and say NodeMon and server.js. So it's going to take some little more time compared to the plain node, but finally it says server started at port 8080, and now if you go to your code and put, let us say, additional exclamatory signs and say save, then you will see that it said restarting due to changes, and it restarted and again serving at port 8080. So now if I go here and refresh, we'll see this extra exclamatory signs. Okay, so Node we use for productivity or developer productivity. We don't need this in production, but for developer productivity we use this. All right, so that is the next topic, why Node MAM. And then now we'll go to the live coding demo of building the exact same thing, exact same API that I demonstrated at the beginning. Okay, the users API. All right, so now we are not going to serve, HTML anymore. We want to serve JSON because API, after all, we give JSON and we get JSON, right? That's what we do. So instead of rest.send, let's use this method called JSON, response.json, and then let's pass a JavaScript object to this, and let's say information, uh, and we'll just say the users API is available at /users. That's all. So now we go here and do a refresh, and we get this. Okay, so NodeMon already has restarted the server after the changes. So we got this API. So now what we need to do, we need to use something called a router. Okay, and to use a router, um, we'll again use the router part of the Express framework or Express library. So let me create a new folder, a new file, and call it users, or maybe user router.js. Here again, I will require Express. So constant Express equals require. Yes. And what we're interested in is in the router. So constant user router equals express router. Okay. As we create our router, and then we will add details to the router and finally export this export the router. Module.export equals user router. So we have to import this file, of course, in server.js. So let's do that. So constant user router equals require the router, and this user router, we have to tell Express to use this user router. Okay, and we can do that like this. So app dot use and use it for this route path, right? Users and user. Okay. So doing just this will not give us any functionality. So it is saying getting a bug. Let me check this. I think I have to write code. I have not yet written code. That's all. So we'll continue. So let's go here, and we'll say user router get Under users, this is what the URL is. Call back here, and I will again this here we get request and response as a parameter. So I will say response dot JSON info and maybe of users for now. Now go here and go to users. Okay, it has crashed. Let us see what is the problem. So let me check. Give me a minute. So server. So router.use requires a middleware function, but got a what? Let me see if I can restart this. Okay, got the same error. Probably I have some typo. Okay, so let me check this. Express equals require express and router equals express dot router get slash. Okay, so this is fine. And server express. Express equals require. Okay, so let's do this. I will use a different method. Okay, so we'll not use a router. So I don't know what's the problem. I don't want to waste more time. Let me do this. App dot get and users directly. Let me call back here. I'm editing a long file at the moment. Close all the files. Okay. So I'll go here and I will comment this. Now app dot get users. I'll provide a callback. I'll copy the same thing here. This is the get. Let's try here. Users get. Similarly, I'll also create post. I'll create put and as well as delete. Okay. I'll just change this here to delete, put, and post. So just to distinguish these routes, if you go to here, of course, you're going to get the same thing. But if you go to Postman and if you use get, you're going to get this. If you use post, you're going to get post. You're going to use put, then we're going to get this. And if you use delete, you're going to get delete as well. Okay. So all our routes are ready. So now what we have to do, we have to write code here to basically the CRUD actions, like create, read, update, delete of the users. Okay. So I was trying to do route. So route basically, I mean, just imagine you have a big application with many routes, right? Then this server.js will become too long with so many routes. And if you have more than this code, right, obviously you're going to have multiple lines of code inside each of these handlers. So that's going to make your project non-modular, right? So what router does, it can take related code of related routes, like all this, related to users, into a separate file, okay? And create a separate route, which is like behaves like a mini app, mini Express web app. And then here in server.js, we just link slash users to that route or that router, right? So that way we keep our code clean and also modular and easy to debug. as well, right? All right, so now we got this routes working. Now we have to add the logic, all right? So let me do this. I don't need this anymore. So for the for this um, purpose of this exercise, what was this? So the purpose of this exercise, I have created a utility called this users. Okay, so I'll show you what this is. I'll copy the code and paste it here. Since I told you earlier that we are not going to use a database to create our, the store the data of our API. We're going to use this class uh, called users, and here I have methods like get user, which corresponds to the get verb or get request method, and then add user to basically add a new user, edit user, or I can call it update user basically. So update user to which corresponds to the put verb, and delete user which corresponds to the delete verb, and add user corresponds to obviously the post verb. Okay, so if you look at the code here in the constructor of the class, I'm just initiating this users array with two users in it with id 101 and 102, and then I have given a starting this increment this counter to calculate the next ID. So I have initialized it to 102. Okay, so this is what will be the data when this application loads. Okay, and in get users, what I have done is whatever is there in this array, I'm just returning it back. Okay, so let's add this. Use this first. So I'll go to server.js. I'll import sorry, put it in the common JS format. So users dot slash. So I'll create a new object called T from this users class, and I'm going to use that and return. I'm going to call get users and return whatever is there in the array. Okay, and whatever has been initialized. So let's see how this goes. Users. Okay, I did it in the wrong place. Let's do it here. Now we get this, right? And this is what we saw early in the demo. So when we load this application, we already have this data. Now we have to add, modify, delete to this using APIs, right? So now we look at the next next method in our class. It is called add user. So here what I'm doing, I'm passing 4 parameters: first name, last name, email ID, and phone number. And then I'm incrementing the ID by 1 so that I get the next ID. And then I'm going to add this new details to this array, right? So this array by default has 2 records. So now whatever is posted by the user, I'm going to take that, call this method, and inside it, I'm going to add to this array, I'm going to add the new details. Okay, so I will share this code and you can take a look at this. I don't want to spend more time talking about this file. I would rather spend more time talking about the how the API is written, right? So Let's go here and let's try to post. Okay, so we go to post and users is correct, and below so here where we have the body, I have chosen raw and I have chosen JSON as the content type. So here let me send these details. Okay, so I will click on send, but obviously as of now there's no code, so it just says users post whatever. So I will inside this, I want to get hold of all the JSON that has been posted, right? So to do this, we need a library called body parser. Again, this is the node module. So here in this body parser, okay. So what this body parser does is it's a middleware. Okay. So I'll show you what is a middleware. Probably that's better. Let me show you what is a middleware. So if I go back to my code and let me write a simple middleware. Okay. So I will say app.use and so for all routes, request, response, and we also get something called next. Okay, the middleware function usually gets something called next. So here we call next. How to call next inside? I'll let me write some code before I explain you what it is. Okay, I'll log something here. Maybe hello. But whenever we access any URL, we get that message here, right? So now what is this middleware and what is the syntax that we used, right? So in Express, we have this concept of middleware, which is basically a function. And it is similar to the callback, of these routes, but it gets one more parameter called next, which is a method. Okay. So what this middleware does, it sits between your request and response. Okay. So whenever a user is doing get, post, put, or delete, he's doing a request, and then web server is going to respond. So this is a piece of code which sits between the request and response and can do something useful for us. Okay. So because I'm just demonstrating what is the middleware, I'm going to just log some things from this uh, middleware function. Okay. So this middleware I'm using for all routes. You can see here, and then for all routes I'm going to apply make this uh, function run whenever somebody requests, and before the response is given back, this function is run. Okay. So let me use the template literal of ES6 syntax, and let me log some things here. So for example, I can log response dot method and response URL. Let's see how this looks. So if somebody accesses this page, and I just refresh this, when you want to, so whenever accesses this page, you get okay undefined and undefined. Sorry, it is request. When you make a request, it will track what is the method you are using and what is the URL to which you posted, right? So if I refresh this page now, I should get, so I use the get method and I access the root tag, right? If I say users, then I did the users, and I did the users route. Okay. Okay, so this one is the post. All right, so next, so next thing, yeah, so, so body parser is again a middleware. Where is that? So here it is. So body parser is again a middleware. So what this middleware does is basically it will read the incoming request, extract JSON, or in fact any other kind of method, any other kind of data that has been posted. Okay, and then make it accessible in our code. Okay, so if you look at the sample code, you will see this here. In case of application JSON format, we have to use syntax. We will use this, and before that we have to install this, right? So this is how we install it. Npm install body parser, and then this. I have already installed, so I will not show it to you once again. But yeah, so this is what it is. So since I've already installed, let me import this. And I'll use this body parser and pass it as a, now use it as a middleware, right? So we'll say app use body parser, and there's a special syntax that we just saw. So we have to use this special syntax. It changes from the kind of content you are trying to access to the other. So if you want a form submitted, access form submitted data, then you can use this syntax. Okay, so now we have added capabilities to our application to be able to read the incoming post data, and then if it is JSON, then take that JSON and put it in request.body. Okay, so here if we now do a console.log in the, sorry, not in the get, I'm sorry, but post, if you do a console.log and request.body dot first name. Now if you go here, and here we have the first name right in the JSON. If I post this, then I got this because I'm console logging it here, right? So what we will do, we will extract all this incoming data like this. Okay, so we'll say request.body on the right hand side, and on the left hand side we'll extract the data to these variables. So this is the destructuring, ES6 destructuring syntax. Uh, if you do this, Yeah, so basically, I'm giving the same name as the keys here. So that way we extract these things into variable. So now let me do console.log of first name. You'll see that when it is posted, okay, so you'll see that when it is posted, then we get this value here, right? All right, so so now what we need to do, we have to pass this to the user. Um, right? P dot add user method, and we pass all of these parameters. And I'll say user added fully. Okay, so this, I mean, again, it's going to call that, the class that I have written, and there I have code to just add this to the array. Okay, so if I do this, then initially I will have these two users, but when I post this, okay, it says user added successfully. So if I refresh this now, okay, I get this new record added. All right. So next, so now that we have done it once, it becomes pretty easy for us. The only difference is in case of put and delete, this is very important. We also have to get the route parameter called ID. So let's do this slash ID. This will, help us to catch the route parameter passed. That is, anything passed after the users in the URL will be taken as the ID. Okay. So here inside this, we'll do the same thing. We need the same things, right? So let's copy the same thing. Um, so we get all of these things, and then we have to do a p dot edit or update user, right? And here we have to pass the same details, and also we have to pass the ID first. Okay, so we have to get the ID. So how do we get the ID? Uh, there is a function or method. So request dot parents dot ID. There's a object, basically a parents object on the request object, using which you can get hold of this ID. Okay, so let's get hold of this, and we'll pass it here. And again, in users, this method, uh, I'm using this map to basically go through each element of the array, and then whenever the match the ID of the incoming request, the ID in the URL matches the ID of a particular array element, I update all the values to the values posted. Okay, so that's all. So we'll go here and now refresh. So we get this the default data. I'm going to go here and post this. So this is going to give me this new record here added, right? Because it is post. Now I have to go here and make it put, and maybe I'm going to change the phone number, right? In the phone number, I click on send. We got error. Let's see what it says. Cannot put users. So why is that? So we'll look at server.js. So yeah, this is very important. So basically, we have to pass the ID, right? So let's look at here. We have 101, 102, 103. So let's pass 103 as the ID. So 103, and then it says no success. If you go here, now we will see that the phone number has changed, right? So let's give a better message. We says user modified successfully. Okay. So same with delete as well. So now we should post it. Now we should post to create a new record, and then you put to update it to something like this. And okay, again I have to give the ID. I'm going to update. Okay, user modified successfully. So that's the put. Then delete. Again, I have a method here called delete user, and here I'm just using this array filter. And whenever the ID matches the ID of a particular array element matches the ID passed by the URL in the URL as the last URL parameter or route parameter, then we delete it from the array or we remove it from the array. Okay. So again, this whole class has these four methods: get users, add user, update user, and delete user. So I'm using this because I won't be able to show you the actual code to hit the database. Okay, but otherwise, this file should have contained each of these methods should have contained code to insert, update, delete, and read from a database table. Okay, so so this utility is just to help us in the demo. So now coming back here, we have to get the ID. So let's get the ID in the same way as put. Now we have the ID from the request parameters, and we have to say p dot delete user and pass that ID, and then user deleted. Let's say we go here and let's post again. Okay, so we got this user now, right? So now I want to delete this 103, so I just have to say 103 here and in the verb HTTP verb to delete or the request method to delete, and click on send. It says user deleted successfully, and you will see that it has been deleted successfully. Okay, so yeah, so we have all of these routes, and okay, so we will see whether we can add make this user router work. I think we made a mistake here. It's not model.export exports. I had put model.export, right? So let me go here, copy all this code of the four routers, okay, into user router, and let me change app to user router. So from here I have to import body parser, users, lot of these things. Let me copy some of this. Put here. Body parser I need. Okay, body parser I don't need here, so I'll remove this. Users I need, and this one is also not exactly needed. So I'm going to remove all this. Now this file is fine. Go to server.js. So we don't need this anymore. Neither do we need users. Let's eliminate this unwanted lines. All we need now is to create Express app. Pass this body parts and middleware, and then this is our custom middleware, and then this is the root handler. And so what we need to do is app dot get, and this is users, and we need to pass the user router here. And obviously we have to import the user router as well. So let me do that. Okay. Constant router equals require This probably will solve the issue that we had. Okay, so now it seems to be working without issues. So we'll try these routes. So user is working, and users also working. We'll try the other routes. We'll try to post this new user. Okay, cannot post users 103. All right, so this URL I have to correct, and we cannot post users. Why? Because in server.js I have said users. So in user router again I should not say users. Okay, actually I should remove this because now everything is on top of the route URL, and the route URL is users, right? So inside the route, I don't have to mention users again. Okay, so I think this should work. So first let me post. Cannot post users. Why is this? Sorry. Let's say app.use. Try now to post and user added successfully. Okay, so your router also behaves like a middleware. Okay, that's why you have to use app.use. App.get and app.post, delete, put are the verbs, but you also have this app.use where if you want to specify a middleware, then you can specify using app.use. Okay, so whether it is the body parser or whether it is this piece of custom code, custom middleware, or whether it is this router, we have to call it or include it as a middleware. So yeah, it is added successfully. We can see it here. Now let's try to modify it by making it 0. Cannot put users because I have to give the ID. So 103. So very okay. User modified successfully. Okay, here we get 000 phone number again, and then finally delete is going to should delete it. Right. All right. So we got the router also working. So router, now you can see probably it happened for good, the issue that we saw earlier. So now you can see how instead of cluttering and your server.js, we put everything in user router, and it helped to make our application more modular. Okay, so this user router, if you see, behaves like a separate or a mini Express app by itself. It has its own routes which are related to the route provided to the middleware. Okay. All right. So I think this thing is almost done. Now, if we have to add some more details to this, then we can do something like app dot get let's say star, and we put a callback. Not get. I want to use all. Okay, so this is one more method. So what I'm trying to do here is, if user tries to access some endpoint which does not exist, or if they try to use a verb on a endpoint that exists, right, or a URL that we are using, right? So in both the cases, I want to handle and show an error. Okay, so request dot response. So here I'm going to say response dot JSON and pass this error and say the route being accessed or the verb being used or invalid. Okay, So it's a long message. So let's see first if it works. So for example, if it tries to do something like this, and yeah, so we should get this, right? Or even if it is users, right? Even if it is users, which is a route that we have implemented, we use something that we have not implemented, like patch, right? We never implemented patch. So it should say the route being accessed or the verb request method being used or invalid. Or simply put, I think in production apps, wise to just say access denied so that you don't give any information to the hacker that this is not a valid route, right? So if you just say access denied, they don't know why, what's the reason, right? So then, we get access denied whenever somebody tries to access any URL. So this is better than giving detailed message, because some wrong route is being accessed. Let the hacker try to find out what the correct URL is, rather than you telling him that the route is wrong. Let him guess whether it is because he does not have access, or whether it is because the URL was wrong or the verb was wrong. I mean, let him do that. All right. So we can also do some validations. Okay. So what if somebody posts but first name is missing, right? So we definitely don't want uh, we don't want to accept that request, right? We want to tell the client that the data being posted is wrong. So just a moment. Yeah, so we don't want to we don't want client to post wrong information, wrong JSON, right? Incorrect format. So then we can go to our router and we can see, we can do some validation. For example, we could say if first name equals undefined, then response by JSON, we pass something and we return, or we stop executing, right? Here we say error, maybe first name, first name is missing. Now we go here, we try to send this, and we get this first name is missing, and you will see that nothing has been done. The data has not been added, right? So you can do this for all the various keys, like JSON keys like last name, email, phone. You can also validate whether the email format is correct. Otherwise, reject the JSON. You can also validate the phone, uh, and so on. Okay. So this should be your first API, um, kind of a simple API that you could build on yourself to learn Express, and also to how to build REST APIs with Express. Okay. All right. So yeah, I can see that there are a lot of questions being posted. Uh, so I will take them up one by one. So before that, I just want to talk about something. Okay. So this is a picture from SKU Code classroom, where we conduct all these trainings. Node.js course is going to start in April, and it's going to be 28 hours of training. But this course is going to be online training. It's not a classroom training. It will include about 20 hours of project work in addition to these 28 hours. Um, so each class we are going to record, and we are going to make the video available. So even if, let us say, on a particular day you're not able to attend the session, you can always look at the video and see what you have missed. Or you can revise. So even if you have attended the class, you can go back to what you didn't understand and revise again and again. Okay, so you visit this, please visit this link, sqcode.com Node.js, if you want more details about this course. Then we also conduct React and Angular courses. Um, so these courses, again, you can get full details on the website. These classes happen on the weekend. You have the option of attending either the classroom or the online. Okay, so some of our students attend online classes from all over the world. Okay, so Australia, Singapore, Europe, you name it. So you can do it, in online mode. Um, so each weekend we have the classes on Sunday and Saturday. We have 3.5 hours each day. So you can register for this as well. The Node.js class that I spoke about just now before this is going to happen on weekdays in the evening. It's online course. So together, if you learn Node and these technologies, you will be able to learn mean stack or MERN stack as per your interest. Okay. So yeah, so this is about us. And coming to this webinars, this is not the last webinar. We're going to have a lot more webinars. We have had many webinars in the past as well. And all the past webinars, you can go to YouTube and look for Stu Code, look up for Stu Code and see all the old videos. And please subscribe to YouTube as well as to ask your friends to subscribe to the meetup group, Stu Code meetup group, so that you get notified whenever we do our webinar, and you can attend it live. Okay, and ask your questions and get them answered. All right, so now coming to the questions. So we have a question. It says, is it possible to generate new authorization token every time while CRUD? So without specific token, user should not be able to do CRUD. So typically what is done, there is a login screen and you will not be able to access any of the URL endpoints, API endpoints or URLs without first providing your authentication details, your username and password. So once you have provided, an auth token is generated, and that auth token is, can be used in the header of each request, right? So header means when you're making a request, you can also submit some header. Okay, so let us say auth token, right? And then here is the auth token, whatever is the token, right? So you can use the token, and every time that token is used on the server side, on the Node.js side, you can check that it is valid and allow the users to access that endpoint. Okay, so that is how usually endpoints are protected from unauthorized access. All right, so what is the difference of package.json and package log.json? So basically in the newer version of Node, like Node 8, we get an additional file called package lock.json, and this you get as and when you install new packages. This file also gets updated. You will see that it has the exact version that you have downloaded. The package.json will just say one point, for example, Express, right? It says 4.16.3 and anything above that. Okay, so if somebody downloads your application from GitHub, and in GitHub we don't usually check in the node modules, right? So if somebody gets your code from GitHub, then you can do npm install, and npm install will look at all these libraries and install it, right? So package.log.json, you will have the exact version, so that if you are shipping any production code, and when making the build using package dot the npm, using npm, then you can download the exact version instead of the latest version. So is there any framework to write test cases for Node.js application? So this is the next question. Yeah, there are a lot of framework. You can use any framework, basically any JavaScript framework supports, especially Chai and Mocha you can use, and that's going to be covered in our course as well. But basically, you can use any unit testing framework. There is no restriction. What about CI/CD? So CI/CD again, nothing to do with Node. It is possible to make any build of any technology using CI/CD, right? So whether you are using Jenkins or whether you are using Circle CI or some other software, it does not matter. You can do both CI as well as CD with Node.js applications. Okay. All right. So those are the three questions I have. So if there are any other questions, please post them in the chat, and I'll be glad to help you out. Okay. So looks like those are all the questions we have. So sorry about the confusion regarding the routing. So what I was doing wrong was instead of module.exports, I think initially I typed modules.export and then I removed modules and then I forgot to change this to exports. Okay. So that's why it was giving error. But I think this example that we saw today is a pretty representative example. It covers all the CRUD operations. It covers routing. It covered middleware. But of course, if you have to really learn it well, you have to go a lot in depth into these topics. Um, yeah, and this code that you saw today, as well as the PPT, we'll be sharing with you all. Okay. So, all right. So, thanks a lot, everybody. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You are going to get a lot more webinars on various web development technologies. So, please subscribe, please like, please encourage us to do more. Okay. Thank you so much.